And we're live. And so I just was showing you. Boop. You see that?
Yeah.
And then I did, so there's the main one, Golden Age, and Post-Crisis. Oh, I feel like I'm going to burp. Fix that. All right. Let me see your Superman shirt. I think you've worn it before, but
Yeah, I think I
like
have two. I have this one and I have a white one.
I like that one. All right. I haven't put anything out there on the social medias to say that we're live, and frankly, I don't feel like putting anything out there on the social medias to say that we're live because I just don't want to. I have a feeling we're not going to have, well, it's kind of dumb to say it out loud, but it's like I kind of have a feeling that we're either going to get nobody watching at all since we're doing it at, an hour and a half early, or we're going to end up with like 30 people watching because it's like a bunch of people who've been wanting to come.
Yeah, it is their time.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Whichever. We're doing what we do, and if people want to, then do, and if they don't, then don't. That's
right.
It's my philosophy on podcasting as a whole.
People got to do what they're going to do.
Yep.
All right.
Everybody's probably seeking shelter to try to stay from being noticed so they don't get their job cut by the felon in chief. Seems to be the way of things. Oh, you work for the government? You're gone!
Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I have a brother-in-law who he used to work for local government.
Mm-hmm.
And so if ever there, was a new governor coming in, and if it was a different political party, it's like he'd always go, well, I may lose my job here in the next couple of weeks, as they trade everybody out for the people that they want to work with.
Such a shame that, it's always been that way. I realize that, but this is, you've got a baby in power, and he is stomping his feet, and I don't know, it's just
the latest thing. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want all of the people that I know personally that would talk to me to tell me why a person of this nature is who they voted for. What were the words that you believed? Because I don't believe a damn thing that comes out of his mouth.
No.
But what are the words that you believed that you said, oh, that's who I want as president? That is, because I don't know, he has to be among the worst people I have ever paid any attention to. Now, I know there have been worse people, mass murderers and, what have you. But, just his public persona is so negative.
Yeah.
I mean, just to if you have, and I'll say this, and if people are offended, then I'm not even going to apologize. If you have a modicum of intelligence, any at all, you can watch this man and see there is something wrong with this dude. I don't want him marrying my daughter, my wife, or my mother. I don't want him coming over for dinner, and I sure as hell don't want him spending the night in my house. And if all of those things are true, well, then why in the hell are you going to vote for him? What? It continually, every week when I go through, and I have to save it for the end of the week. I can't look every day.
Yeah.
Saturday mornings, I sit in there after breakfast and I just look through as broad as I can as to what people are saying. And I have a website bookmark that has probably 50 periodicals, and it has the political leaning of the periodicals. So I will try to spread out my reading as much as I can stomach. And just this stuff since January 6th. I, I can't. If if I were to come back 300 years from now, I have no idea what I would tell the people reading the history books. I don't. Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah. 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 The latest thing I saw, I think yesterday, was the release of a presidential letterhead with his signature on it that just said that he has basically told everybody who is in the White House, who may visit the White House, they are not allowed to use the word felon. They can't say it out loud. They're not
Okay.
allowed to write it down. And if anybody on White House grounds, if they're caught using the word felon, they could be terminated or fired. That's
Okay.
that's that's the big works our president's up to right now. Those are the
Oh,
big
oh,
social changes he's making.
not to be confused with the fact that yesterday or Thursday, a bill was introduced in my state legislature here in West Virginia to take our tallest mountain, which has been named Spruce Knob since the mid 1880s, and change the name to Trump Mountain. That's what my people in my capital are contemplating right now. That's the biggie. So
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes you sad sometimes.
um,
Sometimes you
sad
get
is a
really
good
angry.
start. Well, sad is a start.
Yeah.
That's yeah. If you're going to feel something, that's a good place to start about it. Yeah,
A lot of times I get angry, and then sometimes I'm just too tired to get angry, and so I
well,
just get sad.
I try not to get angry because then there's nothing I can do with that anger.
Yeah.
I can't direct it at anybody or so I just you can ask my wife. I just read, and for 25 or 30 minutes as I'm reading stuff, I never stop shaking my head. I just shake my head the whole time.
Yeah.
I just can't put it into words. Yeah,
Yeah. It's almost like a deep
it's
embarrassment.
it's a
Or
movie, Stephen. It's
oh,
a movie.
I
I
know.
mean, it's got to be fiction because things this whatever you want to call it, you can only make it up. It doesn't happen for real.
And yet there it is.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
like, uh,
Yeah.
well, here's a guy that says, that the HIV virus doesn't cause AIDS, and vaccinations cause what is it? Autism.
Autism.
And so let's put him in charge of all the medicine in the country.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sure. Let me change the channel. I want to watch some sports now. Let's put a woman that used to run the World Wrestling Federation in charge of educating our children. Yeah. Oh, I just.
Yeah, just gotta try to get through these 4 years, man.
If we can,
And
if they have their way, it'll be more than 4.
Yep.
It'll
That's
be
true.
president for life. It'll be, who knows what it'll be by the end of 4 years, what we'll have to suffer
Yeah.
next. Yeah. I just,
We had, according to this thing here, we had somebody jump on. We had one viewer that jumped on kind of in the middle of that, and then like just a few moments before I started talking, they jumped off. It's like they went, all right, let's
guys,
watch some Superman. What the fuck is this?
Sorry, guys. Okay, yeah, let's
No.
talk Superman.
Nah, Trump is gonna come up a lot, I think, during John Byrne's run on Superman, just simply considering that's who he based his Lex Luthor on, was Donald Trump.
Oh, is it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
As the businessman Donald Trump, not the politician, of course. Because it's way before that. But
exactly.
Okay.
The corrupt, crooked businessman.
Felon.
Yeah.
Felon.
Oh my God.
I'm not on the White House grounds. I can say
people aren't falling through the ceiling on ropes.
Now,
Going,
I'm sorry. If you look at my Facebook page, he is the felon in chief, and his sidekick is Elon Himmler. Those are the two references that I make to them. It's yeah. So
that I think, we're gonna end up here for 4 hours talking about nothing about the we're gonna have to stop.
no, it's
It's just they need to, first of all, they need to create a third party, because the one thing that I've kind of discovered throughout all this is that of course there's the Democrats who seem fairly useless. I would consider myself a Democrat only because I lean to the left. You got Republicans who are all up in Trump's grill. And then you got Republicans who just don't like him at all and think he's bad for the country and see him for who he is, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Those two, they have, I don't know.
Well, I think honestly, right now, what would help is if the majority of the Democrats came in to center a little bit, and we could convince enough of these really weird Republicans to come into the center a little bit. That way, we would have a group of people that at least are closer. They're not going to meet in the middle. I understand that, but you're so fringy, rabid left. Yeah. Trying to fight so fringy, rabid right that this is what we get. We now have a president that his party is truly terrified to do anything that he doesn't sign off on because they're afraid he's going to ruin them. That I think that is the majority of the Republican Party. Yeah. And the Democrats are scared of the same thing if they speak. I'm like, but that is what you're there for, is to speak out.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they're all making money.
Yeah, I know.
And and it's not money. We're not talking their normal salaries. We're talking all that other stuff they're making.
The stuff they do besides being in the Congress. That money, not
Yep. Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah. They're all making money. That's what it comes down to.
All right. Let's talk some post-crisis Superman.
All right. I am recording.
Got my notes up. I am recording as well.
All right. You're listening to the Superman Super Show post-crisis edition. And this is episode number 3, One Night in Gotham City. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steeven. And 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore. How you doing?
Pretty good. And now I'm going to have an earworm for the rest of this recording. 1980 song, One Night in Bangkok.
One night in Bangkok. And I don't know.
Your oyster.
The title of the song. That's the only lyrics I know. One night in Bangkok. Blah, blah, blue, blah.
Oh, you don't remember? We get our kicks above the waistline, sunshine.
Whoa.
You don't remember that lyric? Yeah,
no,
I always remember that.
Who did that song?
I knew Hancock, something Hancock. I'll look it up. Not Herbie.
No,
that's a different cool
Herbie
song.
Hancock. In the 80s, he came out with Rocket, and it was a very kind of a hip hop type of
Murray Head. I'm sorry,
Murray Head.
Yeah, Murray Head is his name. Off the top of my head, no pun intended, I don't recall hearing that name associated with any other song. So
no.
Murray Head, what the dude did.
That sounds, and it seems like a very memorable name, isn't it? Murray Head.
I would think, yeah. But
Herbie Hancock, he comes out with that song in the 80s, Rocket, and it's very hip hoppy, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of this guy, and so I associated him as he was a hip hop artist, and so I was at a relative's house one weekend, and I'm looking through their tapes, and I run across a Herbie Hancock tape, and I'm like, oh, cool. I put it in and it's all like piano jazz and stuff. And I'm like,
Jazz.
what
That's yeah.
the hell? And yeah, it's like, that's what he's known for is jazz. I didn't know. I was a dumb kid in the 80s.
Yeah, he's actually a jazz musicianist
Yeah.
that I don't know delved into synth for a little while, maybe a whole album, and
Yeah.
but I associate him with Eddie Murphy.
Oh yeah. How come?
Yeah, because he did the theme song for the first Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, okay.
Dun, 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 dun,
Oh,
dun,
Axel
dun,
F.
dun,
Okay.
dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Herbie Hancock. He wrote that. So
That's awesome.
okay, so we've gone from presidential talks to now this was our music segment. So for those of you that are looking for either one of those, this is the episode so far. So we covered one of the okay. So
We didn't do any presidential talk. That was all post or pre episode.
yeah,
You'll
no, yeah, it's not on the
yeah,
recording here.
it's all
Yeah,
out there on the live stream.
we
Come
got
love
it
us
out of
or
our
hate us.
system before that, yeah, and that actually I apologize. That was my fault. I brought that up first. So
No. You know what? I mean, I'm going to say this, and it's only going to pique the interest of the people who are listening that haven't watched the live stream, and they're going to be like, maybe I should go check that out because there was nothing you said that I don't wholeheartedly agree with. First of all, not that I would be like, don't say stuff that I don't agree with, but
no.
I just happen to agree with everything you said. And frankly, anybody who watches it and says, oh, I can't watch these guys because they believe, then I'm like, well, fuck you, because I don't want you listening to the show anyway.
I just, I know religion and politics are both really, really touchy with a lot of people.
Yep.
For right or wrong, whatever. I can talk about either one. It doesn't bother me. You are not going to do or say anything that is going to affect what I believe. So it's, so I'm not scared to talk about it. But I try to talk about both as intelligently as I can rather than impassioned. What I believe, because what I believe is me for 50 some years of reason. It's what I believe at this point. But there is so much I think that you can talk about just on an observational. Well, that just doesn't make sense level. Why would they do this? Why would they say that? And that's how I try to approach talking about either one of those subjects whenever I do, which isn't very often. But I just. There's just so much that you can say about both that you're like, I don't understand. That doesn't make sense to me. Person I'm talking to, help me, help it make sense. And so that's, yeah. So here we go again. Sorry about that. Yeah.
So, hey, I know we always joke about weather being a staple in banter lore. Lore, is that the right word? I don't know.
Sure.
But I'm going to ask, what's the weather like in your neck of the woods?
We just got done with some brutal cold less than a week or so ago, and some massive snows. But within a couple days of it snowing, it hit like 50, and so most of that is gone. The problem is today, it's very overcast, and today, tonight, on into Monday morning, it's supposed to rain a total of anywhere from 3 to 4 inches. So the concern locally, no, it'll stay warm.
That's good.
But the concern is that all the water runways, runoff are full already.
Yep.
So with 3 to 4 more inches, where, as a matter of fact, my the 911 center where I work staffed up to try to cover potentially the calls that they believe will be coming in because of the water. Fortunately, it has warmed up into the low 40s, upper 50s, so people having to deal with flooding won't have to deal with 20 degrees like it was last weekend.
Yeah.
Not that necessarily makes it any better, but so yeah, that we're under a flood watch for the next 48 plus hours here. Not me. If I flood, Noah and I are going to become friends, because there are major issues if where I live floods. Issues beyond the flooding, actually.
Do you know how to measure by cubit?
it's from the end of your nose to your thumb, or no, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know if there's an app that will convert
A,
feet
a
to
cubit?
cubits.
Yeah, I off the top of my head, I don't even know what a cubit is. I mean, I know
Yeah,
what it is, but I don't know how much it is.
right. Yeah, but yeah. Um, so anybody listening to the episode, just know that I have no idea what time of the year it might be if you're listening to it as a brand new episode,
Yeah,
because
there you go.
we're recording it in on the day after Valentine's Day 2025. I should
Yeah, I
include
was
the
going to say
year just
you
in
should
case.
probably preface that we still have weather, just to
Yeah,
be safe. I mean, you never know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This was a time in the world where weather happened.
Precipitation fell out of the sky.
People weren't just turning to ash the moment they walked out into
Uh,
the sun.
yeah.
But yeah, we had the big blizzard in January, and then it stayed really cold for a week or so after that. So that kept all the snow and all the ice on the ground, and
Right.
it just I think all of it melted off finally. You might see the occasional small pile of snow in a parking lot where,
Yes,
you
that was
know,
where it was
yeah,
scraped. It was big, but
yeah,
now that, yeah.
it was like 30 feet high at one point, but now it's about a foot high. But yeah, then it snowed 2 nights ago, and now it's yeah. Luckily, there was no ice. The blizzard, we had a good inch of ice. Well, not an
Okay.
inch,
Yeah, we
quarter inch or
we
something of ice before it snowed. So
related to that, we had that too, but by the time it got here, we had a lot less. Our ice was probably just a glaze on some of the colder things outside,
mhm.
some bushes and stuff like that, but it wasn't that nifty layer on everything that
Yeah, yeah,
a true ice storm will get.
yeah. Ice storms just scare the crap out of me.
Hmm.
I don't yet. I mean, there's the risk, of course, that all the power is going to go out because all your power lines now are heavy with ice, and then just the idea of having to go out in it if necessary. Yeah. So, all right. Banter complete.
Indeed.
Banter complete. Today we're looking at the Man of Steel #3. This issue was published by DC Comics on August 7th, 1986. And it is entitled "One Night in Gotham City and Batman's Kicking Some Butt." That's no, that the title is actually "One Night in Gotham City," but I had to try it. Anyway, it was written by John Byrne.
You
It
and
was
Murray Head. Yeah.
old Murray Head.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that guy up later. That's that's weird because that song "One Night in Bangkok," it doesn't have a big space in my nostalgia memory pool, but there's a sliver of it in there, so it was obviously big enough at that period in time that
Right.
it's made a permanent place in my brain.
Right. It
But
made
yeah,
a mark. Now,
mhm,
why? I don't know,
yeah.
but it did. It's,
But
yeah.
Murray Head, I feel like that's the first time I have ever heard that name.
Then hey, Billy.
Billy D has
Yeah.
joined us on the live stream.
And maybe, it's quite, that is one of the things it has happened, I think, in other um, score of years, or whatever, 10 years, every 10 years is called. Um, but the 1980s are just rife with truly one-hit wonders.
Oh my gosh, yes.
They just they blew up like a bomb for 2 weeks, and then nobody's ever heard of them since, except really true fans that follow them in the um, summer festival circuit, or whatever they ended up doing. But yeah, half of my favorite 80s tunes are one song from a group I have never heard from again. So it's,
Yeah, and because of MTV, you saw the
ooh,
videos all the
yes,
time. I
all the
mean,
time. Yes.
when I was a kid in the 80s, I could sit in front of the TV and turn on MTV
Yep.
and literally just watch music videos all day.
And maybe that's why they have stuck with us, because we have, that putting
The
music
visual
and visual together
yep.
really sticks it in the brain. They've researched that. So maybe that's why we were at the age and it was a visual mixed with a one-off song, and that's why for
Yep.
us it left such a mark.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Crazy. So
Okay,
back to
so
the issue.
what about this? Yeah, what about this Man of Steel 3?
It was written and
This
penciled
is
by John Byrne. Dick
going to be a tough day,
Giordano
man.
was the
A lot of
inker.
rabbit holes.
Yeah. Yeah. Buckle up, folks. We're just
Yeah.
getting started.
Whew.
The letters were by John Costanza. The colors were by Thomas Ziuko. And here is what happened in the issue. Superman arrives in Gotham City with one goal: stopping Batman, the masked vigilante who operates outside the law. Confident in his abilities, the Man of Steel attempts to bring Batman in, only to find himself thwarted by the Dark Knight's meticulous preparation. Batman activates a hidden failsafe. If Superman if Superman makes a move against him, an innocent life will be lost somewhere in Gotham. Forced to stand down, Superman reluctantly agrees to work together to apprehend Magpie, a jewel-obsessed criminal with a deadly streak. Streak in her underpants. Gross! Sorry, everybody. Sorry, I apologize. If you could have seen, if you're only listening, if you could have seen that look on Ed's face, it was like a look of disgust and shame at the same time. He was disgusted at having to hear that and ashamed at being associated with the person who said it.
Indeed, I feel ashamed. I'm
You
sorry
look-
for you.
You looked a hairbreadth away from just leaving the live stream on his screen.
Throwing the headphones, walking through the banner. I'm out of here.
We're done. Let's see. As they track her down, their philosophical differences come to the surface. Superman's unwavering belief in law and order clashing with Batman's ruthless pragmatism. Despite their distrust, they manage to stop Magpie. After the dust settles, Batman reveals the ultimate deception. The endangered innocent was himself all along, with the supposed bomb hidden in his own utility belt. That uses the word supposed. I mean, it was, well, I guess we don't know for a fact it was an actual bomb. We
still don't. I mean, even by the end of the story, yeah.
Recognizing Batman's unwavering commitment to his city, if not his methods, Superman departs, warning Batman against taking his tactics too far. As Batman watches him leave, he acknowledges Superman's unshakable morality and wonders if, in another life, they could have been more than reluctant allies. Ed, what'd you think about this one?
Okay. Two main things. Let me preface here quickly. The majority of my reading of either of these characters is much more recent than this, or I have done a little bit of Golden Age reading for both. 50, 60 stories of each one, so a handful. So based on, a characterization that no longer exists for both of these characters, and today's characterization, even the Absolute. I've been reading the Absolute books, but my impression is that the way that Byrne approaches Superman and Batman in this particular story, the characterizations are reversed from what I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
And the second observation is I like Magpie's shtick. Steal something, leave something. I think that's just a really cool gimmick, and it makes it obvious why she chose the name, if that's the case, of Magpie. Because I always wondered, I'm like, are they just trying to add to the birds in the DC continuum, or Magpie? I mean, next it'll be Robin. Oh no, wait, yeah, kidding. So those two things mainly stick out to me after reading this.
The Man of Steel, I've said this before, I've read multiple times. I reread issue number 3 this morning. I finished it about a half hour before we started live streaming. So the name Magpie was given to her by when she was a kid, uh,
Oh, that's
bullies.
right. Yeah, it was a
She,
nickname that, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
she liked the pretty shiny stuff, and she always took the stuff, and so yeah, they called her Magpie. Um, I think that if we're the broad talking about this in broad strokes, I did enjoy it. It's, of course, our first Batman Superman team up in
Mhm.
a post-crisis DC universe. My only issue with the story is this idea that Superman has decided that Batman is not a good guy because he's a vigilante. While he even says at one point in the book, some people may call me that as well, but I mean, technically, Superman can say that the kind of stuff that Batman does is illegal because it is,
Right.
but that Superman tries to work within the law. But the fact that he's out there doing what he's doing and he's not a deputized
Yeah,
officer of the law, he's breaking the law just as much as Batman.
isn't that called being a let's see, what's the word? Vigilante, isn't that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And
That's
not only is it called being a vigilante, it's also called being a hypocrite.
yeah, exactly. A bigger picture. Yeah,
That's
that
right.
that pretty.
He's a hypocrite vigilante.
He's a superpowered hypocrite. That's and see that because he seemed to approach it much more as the synopsis said, pragmatically. Whereas Batman is trying to explain things calmly to Super. I'm like, no, wait a minute. It's no, these the characterizations don't fit right with what I know. So yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it was weird watching as Batman tried to explain methodology to Super. I'm like, what? The
What?
the man that has secrets as to how to defeat anybody, anywhere, all the time, and he
Yeah.
keeps it to himself. He doesn't want them to know that.
Yep.
He is trying to explain why his methods. Yeah, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, that's kind of a cross between what they were trying to do with Batman at the time, along with the way that they told stories at the time, which was to try to figure out a way for the character to tell the reader what was happening in the most unnatural way
Yeah,
possible.
it's yeah,
Because they can't, then no, eh, there will come a point where your average comic book writer will trust that the reader can understand what's going on
ooh,
without it
wow.
being spoon fed to them.
There we
But
go. Yes, or at the very least, let the pictures try to tell the story.
yeah, yeah,
That's yeah.
it's why you have for decades so many comic books with characters explaining everything that they're doing out loud
While they're
while you're
doing it,
watching them do it.
yeah, it's like yeah.
They should do a TV show like that. See how far they get
Oh
with
yeah, break the fourth
yeah.
wall. The character, and
You got
now I'm going to yeah. It's
you got Jack at the beginning of Lost running across the beach. I'm running across the beach because there is apparently a plane that has crashed behind me, and I was probably on that plane. Now I have to find, and you just be like, "What the hell is going on?"
what are you doing? Yeah,
People just assume that, oh, so he must be the psycho. He's the one with the screw loose. But I think I talked in the last episode about the Superman that was in Kingdom Come.
Mhm.
And, I love Kingdom Come, but the Superman that's in that miniseries gets on my nerves a lot because he's this, I'm the only one that knows how to do superheroing right.
Right.
And I've gotten to the point now that if you're not going to do superheroing the way I say it needs to be done, I'm going to put you in jail, basically. And it's
Eh,
almost like this is
eh,
where it started right here in
right.
this issue.
This is leading, years from now to that. This
Yeah.
characterization. Yeah, for
Because
sure.
Superman is still, I mean, obviously he's still a new superhero at this point.
Right.
He may have been around. I can't remember what the timeline is from the end of issue 1 to the end of issue 2. I don't think it's been that long. I'll look that up at some point because I know there's a timeline printed somewhere. But still, within his first 5 to 10 years at
Oh,
the
easily.
most.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's still he's still figuring this all out. And for him to be in Metropolis, a relatively new superhero, it must have been a really slow day in Metropolis for him to go, you know what? I've been reading about this Batman guy in Gotham
Yes.
who is catching bad guys, just not in a way I like. So I'm going to ignore all the crime that's going on and I'm going to go capture him because
Yep.
he just thinks he's going to fly there, grab him up, and
Right.
that's it.
Put him in jail
Yeah.
just like you would anybody
Just,
else and then go back.
yeah. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, just
Yeah,
in and
yeah.
out. No big deal. But, in general, did you like the story? Did you like it?
Um, I didn't dislike it.
Mhm.
I don't know that I would go as far as to say I liked it. And it could be that what happened, I know that in most stories, and this is a set story, a beginning, a middle, and an end in 6 issues. Somewhere around issue two-ish, three-ish, maybe four-ish, somewhere in there, typically things will really slow down because you get that big bomb blast entrance, and then you get the denouement, to throw out the only fancy words I know, at the end. Um, and in the middle, sometimes the energy will kind of just sag in any story. And I don't know if it's that or if it's the story in this issue itself, but I felt the energy was lessened from what a lot of what I saw in the first couple issues. Now, as a test for that, I haven't read past this to see if it picks back up yet. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Could be this is the middle of a slide to a really sucky ending, which I doubt. But I mean, I don't know. I just know that to me, this one, it added to this new Superman world. Theoretically, gave us another character in Batman. I thought a really cool villain in Magpie. Can't call her really a supervillain, just a villain.
Yeah.
Her look with the wig and that was, yeah, I like that. So it was interesting, but I don't I can't really go as far as to say that I liked it, meaning, I would pick the book up again in 6 months to reread it or suggest somebody else read it right away or something like that. But I'm not prepared to really dismiss it either and just say, well, it was bad, let's move on. So
Yeah.
kind of just in the middle of the road, almost a non-committal, but kind of a leaning to it's okay, maybe on the way to liking it rather than
Yeah.
the opposite.
Well, and I'll say I don't want to spoil anything for you, but when it comes to these 6 issues, it's less of a one full story as it is 6 vignettes
Okay, I could see
told
that.
over the course of so many years that kind of set up who Superman is.
Okay,
So it's like most of these issues are just kind of done in ones. And yeah. So there's, because yeah, at this point, heck, by issue 2, you should be able to go, all right, so here's the central storyline. Here's the
right,
thread.
true,
And
yeah.
we haven't really gotten that yet.
Well, and arguing a little bit, the central thread is the life of Superman.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's enough of a thread. I think, like you said, this is turning out to be more vignettes than it is a complete story, like I indicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. All right. Why don't you take us through the issue and we will point out the things that we loved, the things that we hated, and the things that made us kind of scratch our heads and go, what was going on there?
Okay. All right. The first story page is the standard 9 panel page here. Very very standard. John Byrne's art, though, is not standard. He's an awesome artist, so I do like what he's doing. He's using a little bit of perspective as the you move through the panels. You start looking at a gargoyle. I think that's what it's called. It's not a
Yeah.
gargoyle, but it's one of those big things that
Yeah.
sit on the top like corners of old buildings. I just call him a gargoyle, no matter what
Yeah.
shape.
I, Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure they're
probably
called something, but
yeah. That's a good question because I know it's not a gargoyle. It's obviously an eagle or some sort of bird,
some kind of
but
bird, right?
I would have referred to it as a gargoyle as well,
Yeah,
just because you're automatically invoking this idea of a little statue thing that's on the around the perimeter near the top of a building.
right. So automatically, it's putting me kind of in a gothic frame of mind. I don't really know where we're at yet. This is the very first panel. It says Superman, and then you see this gargoyle being rained on with. It's raining so hard that the rest of the city in the background is kind of hazed. Not
Yep.
in my mind, not because of the distance away, but because of the rain. It's raining so hard. It says Superman. So first, my first impression was, this must be an older, quote unquote, darker part of Metropolis because the Metropolis we've seen is big, fancy, modern buildings, kind of shiny, sparkly, kind of new. Gargoyles don't evoke new to me. That's an old decoration on an old building. So we're moving through the panels. Frame of reference is changing. We see the gargoyle from a little different angle, and then we see down into the dusty canyons of the city through from the top down to the street level through the breaks and gaps in the building. I've always liked that perspective of looking at a city.
Yeah.
Probably because by trade I'm a cartographer, so aerial photography is a thing I deal with on a daily basis, and
Cool.
that's
Yeah.
um, most of the aerial photography is top down. Now you can get it
Yeah.
from an angle, but most is top down. Then we see maybe a group of people here. Can't really tell. You can't tell what the next panels show just from this one panel, but someone is running away. And then you see the shadow of, if you're familiar with them, Batman. If not, a shadow of somebody. Looks like it must be falling down on this dude. It is Batman. We know how he operates. He watches all, and then he just intercedes when he feels. Jumps down, knocks the dude down, grabs him, punchy punchy, kicky kicky. Next page is it's a full one panel page, One Night in Gotham City, and then Batman, a nice image of Batman says, "You're wasting my time, Bull. You know how I hate having my time wasted." And it's Batman standing, uh, arms akimbo on his waist, the cape falling. You would have to
Classic.
see the image. Yeah, it's a very typical cowl cape Batman kind of pose. I mean, even if you know nothing about who the character is, he's imposing the way that Byrne drew him here.
I
And
just
dude
re
is on the ground now.
I just realized he doesn't have the yellow oval behind the bat symbol on his
Yeah,
chest.
it's just the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Um,
still gray and blue at this
yes.
point. He hasn't been converted to, and I think really the blue is just, I think it's less that his cape and cowl are blue. It's just, how a lot of times back at this time when they had a character whose costume was black, they
Right.
would
And
add a lot of this blue to highlight.
right. And you would think that's what he is black and less black. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to call it gray, but it's just a lighter black because he's Batman, imposing. He works at night, plays in the shadows. I mean, everything lends itself to being able to blend in. And shiny blue just kind of doesn't do that. So, black with just the way the light hits it or something like that. Or actually, you couldn't draw this all black and it really be interesting at all. It would just look
Yeah.
like a big blob, bleed when you turn the pages and all that stuff. So he's chasing the thug here. His name is Bull. He's knocked him out first page, imposing, trying to intimidate him second page. And then the third page here, we see what's going on. Batman wants information from him, and he's trying to well, he's trying to Guantanamo Bay information out of him, if you will, trying to threaten, intimidate, psychological at the very least torture. Although he does resort to fisticuffs, so there is a little bit of physicalness, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it's any kind of torture at all. He's just again, if you're familiar with Batman, it's all very typical of his modus operandi, the way he works. He comes out of nowhere. You don't know when he's going to get you. In Gotham City, though, you can bet that he is going to get you, just like Superman in Metropolis. Everybody whispering because Superman can hear. Well, you do anything in Gotham City, Batman is going to catch on. It's got to be just a matter of time before he catches up to you. So
Yep.
you're always running in fear. You're always hiding, looking up, looking out, looking behind. He's there. Here we see Batman doing just that. Bull gets a little bit of personal cojones here. He throws some trash out of the alley in Batman's face to obscure his vision, and he gets up and runs. So he's actually thought that he could escape or evade Batman, which tells you he's only ever been captured by Batman once this time, because if it's happened multiple times, I think you learn pretty quickly that it doesn't work that way in Gotham City.
Not normally.
Now Bull does manage to get away, because as Batman is trying to chase after him, he secures the bat line to swing, but then something grabs the upper end of the bat line and starts moving away with it. You see in a half-page panel here, a couple pages later, that Superman has flown by, has grabbed the bat line, and is towing Batman through the air, much like you would see, Wile E. Coyote in a cartoon or something like that. You're waiting for Batman to be slung around and bounce off of buildings or stuff like that. I do like also how Byrne drew Superman haloed in a bright light,
Yep.
which it's supposed to be the moon. It's colored yellow, makes you think it's the sun, but we're operating at night, so it's a full moon. Superman is highlighted because he is the good, or the goodness, so he gets the light.
Yep.
Nothing really done with Batman to separate him from Superman. That occurred in the pages earlier, being in the grime and the gutters of the alley, establishing that Gotham at night and Batman is watching. He knows if you've been bad or good. Oh, sorry. So we get a little conversation here with Superman and Batman. Superman basically is telling Batman that he's taking him in. And Batman disagrees and says, well, all I have to do is let go. And he does. And so now Superman just has a rope, basically. And he realizes that and starts to check. And he's going to save Batman because they're up high flying and Batman has fallen, or he's just going to get him because Batman is no longer on the rope, or whatever his motivation. But when he turns, he realizes, I don't even see him anymore. He's not here for me to do anything with. He disappeared. Kind of adding, I would think, to what little of the mythos of Batman that Superman is familiar with. Now,
Yep.
at this point, Superman is just familiar with what he has read. I think reading things like this in the newspapers in the mid 80s is probably very different from reading newspaper articles today. So just a different experience. I would think that Superman kind of believes what he's reading in the articles about Batman,
Oh yeah.
to the point that what is being written is believable. So, nobody has said anything about Batman being able to disappear or, whatever. So Superman's really surprised. This isn't something, and he mentions, I don't know if it's here, I think it's later. He mentions that basically, here on the next panel, basically Batman is just a man. He doesn't have powers. He's a superb athlete and an intuitive genius, Superman says. So he doesn't have superpowers. So he couldn't have disappeared. I don't know what happened. And then, of course, Batman pops up in a very Batman the Animated Series kind of
Right.
look here, where
Yep.
he's standing above Superman off to the side on the top of a building. He's all blacked out because he's in shadow, with his cape rippling off to the side here from the massive breeze that must be blowing to kick it out that far. Talking to Superman, basically saying, nanner, nanner, is, basically all he's doing.
So the thing that I love, that I really find interesting about this whole scene up to this point is that it's very obvious that, well, like you said, first of all, everything he knows about Batman, he's read in the newspapers. And it was enough that made him decide that he needed to go do something about Batman.
Right.
But when Batman lets go of the line, Superman is just, he's shocked. He just cannot believe that someone would do that. And then explaining out loud to the reader that as far as he knows, everything he's read, Batman's just a regular dude. He's, he's a genius. Like you said, he points that out, but he doesn't have any superpowers. So that makes me feel like Superman is he's a bit cocky at this point in his career that he's like,
Okay.
well, Batman's just a regular guy. He's a genius, but that doesn't mean shit when it comes to me and my superpowers. He's
Okay.
not fast. He can't fly. I'm just going to go get him. I'll just grab his bat line and boom, we're done. And the
Fly him
fact
off to
that,
wherever I want him to go.
and the fact that Batman just immediately, within seconds, puts the kibosh on Superman's flawless plan by letting go of the rope and dropping to what Superman assumes in that moment, dropping to his death. I love it. It's just, you're immediately, if you didn't understand the difference between Superman and Batman up to that point, you certainly do now.
Oh, and in particular, if this is your first introduction to Batman, let's say that you've been reading this series, so you've seen a little bit of Superman. This is the first time you've ever seen Batman. You immediately start to see the differences in the way these two operate, as if, honestly, you couldn't tell there is something different just by the outfits they wear.
Yeah.
They're very different colored, and mainly what gets my attention is the differences in the color. To me, that straight away tells you that there is a difference in how they operate.
Well, and thinking about this in that mind frame, if I was reading this, for the first time, I was somewhat, this is my introduction to the DC universe. So I'm only, I only know as much about Superman as I know coming up to this third issue. Have no idea who Batman is. Never met this guy before. I feel like I would have by this point in this issue, I'd be like, who is this guy? He is freaking awesome. He's like the Wolverine of the DC universe.
Truly, Byrne is painting Batman in a pretty impressive light in somebody else's book, I think. So
because reading it now, it's like, all right, well, Batman let go of the line. Well, of course he's not dead. Oh, there he is. Ooh, there's Batman. But back then I would have been like, holy, what? He's not dead. What did he? How did?
No doubt. Yeah, he let go of the rope. What did he do?
But that's Superman that he just bested.
Now, this next part is Batman as we know him now to a T.
Yeah.
First of all,
it takes that, what I just said, takes it up a level.
Yep. First of all, you see, well, Batman is not going to be just trifled with. Well, here, I'll just go, and Batman says, no, you won't. It's not what I want, so it's not going to happen that way. So now, Batman or Superman goes to physically get Batman, and he still is intent on taking him to the authorities because we find out because he thinks Batman is doing it wrong. We haven't really gotten into that a whole lot yet. So Superman is approaching Batman, and Batman immediately says, hang on. Check things out with your infravision. Is that what he calls it? Yes. So see, Batman has been reading up, although how anybody would write that about Superman, know that and write it about him at this point, I don't know. But look with those vision powers I hear you have, specifically your infravision, Batman tells him. And so we see a panel where we're looking at Batman from Superman's perspective. And sure enough, Batman is completely surrounded by this aura. It's illustrated with a reddish hue because it's supposed to be infra, which is on the red spectrum, but it's like yes, but if you know anything about light, the red spectrum isn't red per se. It's yeah. So, anyways, but the main thing is you can see that there's an aura completely around Superman. You would assume some kind of energy, uh, because if you believe what Superman said, Batman doesn't have powers, so it's not a power. It's like it must be something that he has.
Yep.
What's going on? And Batman tells him that it's a simple force field, which I don't think there's anything simple about force fields because we don't have them now in real life if they
Right.
were that simple.
Right.
So um, just like the force fields used in airport metal detectors. I am not
I don't know
familiar with
anything
that
about.
concept at all. Yeah, I don't know what they were doing with airport metal detectors in the mid '80s. I this yeah.
No, but I do know that Byrne read. At least
Oh,
he read some because the whole concept. I think we talked about it in well one of the last two episodes about Superman and the tight clothes because he has some kind of personal aura about him, and that
right.
Byrne got that idea from reading like a science journal or something. And
Yeah. So
so yeah,
so maybe Byrne is kind of leaning into what people are saying. What are they called when the government conspiracies?
yeah.
Some kind of conspiracy article that he read way back in the day. Which, if that's what you did, I would be more concerned with what they do in airports now than I would have back then.
Yeah.
But
You know,
um,
and you said something just a bit ago that I just it just hit me as super interesting because you had pointed out the fact that at this point in the story, we don't we don't know specifically. I mean, we know that Superman is there to get Batman. He calls him an outlaw and he's going to take him to the police. Um, but I guess it, as you pointed out, as a story point, we may not necessarily know that Batman is a good guy, right? And
from this, right?
yeah, and so it's I find that interesting because of course, even when I read this the first time back in 86, I knew who Batman was. I knew he was a good
Exactly.
guy. So, that of course is going to be right there at the forefront of your thoughts as you're reading something like this that, oh, well, Superman's just mistaken. He knows that Batman's
Right.
a
Two
yeah,
heroes meeting.
right. Yeah. It's that. Yeah. It's the trope of the two heroes who meet for the first time and fight
They
and
fight.
then
Yeah.
become friends. And Byrne kind of does it a little differently here, but still, again, I have to start wondering what would I have thought about who Batman was? Would I have at this point been going, I mean, he seems to be trying to go after Bull to stop somebody from doing something, but is he a bad guy? Is he good? I don't know.
Well, and that's just the thing. It could be that he is a foot soldier for somebody else, just like
Yeah.
Bull turns out to be a foot soldier for somebody else. Both bad guys,
Yep.
or Batman could be the bad guy of his group, and he's just taking out competition in Bull because
Yeah.
Bull was known to have done something, and Batman's like, you can't do that in my part of the city, and just handling it himself. We don't we can't say for sure that that's not what's going on. Now, admittedly, in a comic book, it would be a little odd to approach it that way. That's not typically how
Yeah.
things are approached. If somebody is subduing a bad guy, it's like in wrestling. You are either one or the other. You're a good guy or a bad guy. If you're taking out a bad guy by default, you're a good guy.
Yep.
That's kind of the way typically comic books are written. But we know from exposure to other media that it's not 100% that way in other media, movies, TVs, novels. That's pretty much the only ones.
Yep.
So, it could be that Batman is a bad guy, just whatever, cleaning his house or whatever it may be. We do know that Superman is the good guy and
Yeah.
he's going after somebody. So, given the typical trope, well, then that must make him the bad guy who he is going after. So now we're
Yeah.
seeing Byrne is saying, Yes, but things are not that cut and dry. They are a little bit more complex than that, even in this
Yep.
newish world that Byrne is putting together.
Yep.
But so Superman tells him he's got this force field, and it detects super dense biological material. So that is Superman assuming that's what that is Batman assuming that is what Superman is like. He is composed of super dense biological material that would allow him to mainly, I guess, deflect bullets and have all these other things, energy and stuff like that, bounce off of him. Super dense biological material does not make you super strong. Super strength and invulnerability are two separate powers, people. Just in case you didn't know that, it is possible to be invulnerable but not super strong. And I'm saying this like it's a fact, but we have seen that typically they are two different powers. They're not related. Um, so Superman is surrounded by this energy field that is intended to detect whenever Superman violates the integrity of the field. Whenever he breaks that field, what? Well, Batman tells him it will trigger a bomb that I have placed somewhere in Gotham, and innocent people will die when that bomb goes off. Now, we find out there's more to that story by the end of the story. I will say now that there is nothing innocent about the people who would have died. So that was not a good portrayal of what was going to happen. Someone will die would have been a better way to put it, but that's just me. So now we're kind of at a standoff. Superman wants to take Batman to the police. Batman doesn't want to be taken to the police, doesn't feel absolutely that he deserves to even, no. He works with the police, and he even has said that. But Superman's like, nah, we'll let them decide. Well, then Batman pulls yeah, well, if you touch me, a bomb's going to go off, and, that'll be bad. And Superman is like, what will happen? Who will?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You can just see he's like, you crazy madman! What are you doing?
Yeah.
And Batman is just standing there going, yeah.
Yeah. It's a great panel because it's literally just Superman's. It's a wide panel. And then in the middle of that panel with a lot of space on either side is Superman's face. And just that shocked. There's no mistaking what emotion is coming out of that face.
And I think it is all based on the fact that Batman said an innocent life.
Yeah.
So I'll say now, before we get to the end of the book, that he lied about that to an extent.
Yeah.
And Superman doesn't know that. So now Superman is faced with perhaps the first conundrum of this sort in his superheroing career. I can do what's right because it's what's right, but someone somewhere will suffer. Or I can not do that. That is the conundrum that he has right now. If he does something, the effects are obvious because he's been told what will happen. If you believe what the person is saying, then the effect is obvious. If I do A, B will happen. The other side of the argument is if I do A, let Batman go, not do anything, he doesn't know what the B is, but his assumption is that it won't be good because he already has seen what happens when Batman is allowed to do what he does, and he doesn't agree with it. Superman doesn't agree. So at the very least, if he lets Batman go, he will keep doing these things that Superman already doesn't agree with. So it's a very interesting conundrum that he has.
Yeah, it's option A, like you said, he knows what's going to happen. Somebody will die.
Right.
Option B, I can understand in Superman's brain that option B is probably the better option only because I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm now provided with a little breathing room to try and figure out a way to stop him before something
Right.
bad happens, where
And
I can't do that with option A.
probably up to this point, I doubt anything has been said about Batman killing anybody
Yeah, that's true.
on that side of things. So in the I already know how Batman operates. Batman is not known to have killed anyone. No one has died.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that coin, Batman has said someone will die. If you follow this and do this, someone will die. And the other side, well, I don't like what he does, but no one has died. So those are his choices. Um, Ultimately, of course, Superman makes the correct choice. Otherwise we probably wouldn't have 8 million issues of Batman after this. But you know, I figure, man, if Batman had ever been sent up, truly sent up, somebody would have killed him just
Oh, yeah.
immediately. He would
Yeah.
have been off. Yeah. Anyways, so
Did,
now, go ahead.
I have to also assume here that Batman has a very commanding voice,
Okay.
because Superman is flying at him. Really, as far as Superman knows, all he's got to do is grab him. That's all he has to do.
Sure.
Superman is super fast. And the fact that Batman is allowed the opportunity to explain to Superman why he shouldn't. And it all starts with Batman just saying, "Hold it," and
With his arm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to assume that Superman at that point went, "What?" and backed off, or at least stopped to hear him out. And for somebody who is as confident as Superman is in this endeavor, I don't know. Batman must have a very commanding voice to
Well,
just stop Superman like that.
and also, we have seen him do this trick. It could be that
Yeah.
Batman or that Superman did have the opportunity to monitor Batman's um, body and see that there was no perspiration, that the heart
Yep.
rate didn't go up, that the breathing didn't change. All these things that they always say are indicators of someone lying or someone being afraid, even. I would imagine that Batman's not even remotely afraid
Yeah.
because he always is to the utmost convinced that he is correct. So how can he be afraid?
Yep.
He is in charge. He's in command of everything. There's nothing to be afraid of. So, now later on, of course, writers have written about Batman becoming afraid, and it never turns out to be a good thing because it has to be something so ominous to fear him.
Yeah.
Let's say so. Um, so now we get the story of what Batman was doing immediately, what he was doing as to why he was chasing Bull.
Yeah.
And we get the story of several instances here around Gotham of something of import or of monetary value being stolen and something being exchanged in its place, something left in its place that had dire consequences for the people where it was left. The first was a bomb that blew up and killed the shopkeeper. The second was a something. I don't think it really tells us what it was, but something that emitted poison gas
Yeah.
when it was messed with. And a third thing, or no, there's four. A third thing that emitted acid when it was messed with, and the last thing was a device that released what I would call flechettes,
Yeah.
sharp pieces of metal that erupted out like not not like a grenade or an anti-personnel mine, but like that. I mean, not that gruesome, but just that kind of expelling sharp pieces of metal. I call them flechettes. And each time, of course, Batman got a little bit more information until finally he tracked these things down to this big dude that he was chasing named Bull. And so he was going to get Bull, get him to talk using, excuse me, using the typical Batman methods, kicking the crap out of somebody. Basically, that's yeah. To get him to talk, and that is when Superman interrupted. Bull got away. We see the introduction of, again, what I think is a really cool character here in a panel. Her name is Magpie. Because now, after, what has this been? 16 pages, the scene shifts. All of this time, the first almost half of this book has been focused on Batman and Superman scene. Now we go to the other side of the story, which is the bad guy, Magpie. It's a female. She is dressed in black. Well, she's got a black bodysuit with these things on her shoulder. Big floppy cuffs. Kind of reminds me of early Mockingbird costume from Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
She's got a red sash with a big red bag on her hip, and red Robin Hood boots with heels.
Yep.
They've got the cuffs. But probably the most striking thing is her hair. It's really weird. She's got a mohawk, but then she's got almost like the Wolverine hair from Marvel Comics character Wolverine, except instead of being on the top of his head like Wolverine is, hers is almost like her neck hair that she hasn't cut for like 20 years to get it this long. And it comes up. So she's got
wings.
Yeah, I guess being a bird, she would have to have wings somewhere, but the hair comes up behind her ears and sticks out, and then she's got this mohawk, and the rest of her head is bald. She's also got red gloves with gauntlet, long. It's actually not a gauntlet, but it's a mid-arm glove. It goes all the way up, halfway up her forearm. So she's black and red with really fashionista red glasses and red earrings. I don't know.
Her hair makes me think of when like dudes will start losing their hair, and some of them will try to compensate by growing what's still there super long, and then
are you referencing a comb over?
Somewhat of a comb over, yeah.
Only instead of combing it over, they use like some product to make it
they
stick
turn it
straight
into
up.
a mohawk with wings.
Yeah.
She's even got hers is because because it looks like it's I guess recessing, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Back up the forehead, but what's on top is like a widow's peak type of thing going on.
Yeah, where the mohawk starts.
Yeah.
Which is funny. We Anyways, I'll save that to the end. But
yeah, right. Yeah, I know. I think I know what you're referring to.
So she is meeting with Bull. Bull made it back to her, which I don't know if that's where he was going to begin with, but that's where he ends up. And of course, I would be too. Magpie is pissed. She's like, so you ran into Batman and you got away from Batman and you came here so that Batman can follow you here. I would agree completely.
Yeah, what an idiot.
Come on. So, on top of a failure to do whatever task he was set out to do, now he has brought Batman seemingly. Does he ever? I don't. Well, yeah, he does track. Batman does track him to this location through a different way, but nonetheless. So Magpie and Bull have a conversation. We see there's a couple other soldiers here. Nobody is overly impressive. Magpie is the standout of this group. The way she's dressed and the way she acts. Everyone else seems just like a typical white collar kind of criminal kind of personality. So she is the super villain, and she doesn't have any powers. I'm throwing up the quotes for you that are listening to the podcast, so you can see here. Listen.
Ooh.
Did you hear that? That was my knuckles squeaking. Yeah. Anyway,
it's like some of that ARSM or whatever that's called.
What?
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting sleepy.
the quote marks there. Um, she is the villain. She's in charge, and everybody else is just plain and kind of needing somebody to tell them what to do. Basically, is my impression of the group. Well, we see that uh, perhaps Magpie is a little bit more cutthroat, although setting all of these previous traps that she has set. You see, she's not normal. She is rather on the psychotic side, kind of like the Joker. You know, they
Yeah.
do these little things that have extreme results. So it's kind of a dichotomy. Well, she just took something and she left something in its place. Yes, and that's no problem until you mess with it. And then it blows up and blows up the whole block. Yeah, so it's like I say, this dichotomy of, well, I'm just going to do this little thing, and they have huge repercussions.
Yeah.
So again, she's talking to Bull. She whips out something maybe that's in her glove. Maybe something pops out, but it's a needle. She hits Bull with it, and it paralyzes him. That would be enough. Now she could have her men beat him up, or she could kick him in the cojones, or whatever, something physical. No, Magpie says, I'm going to teach you. So she takes out to us what looks to be a stick of dynamite, or I guess it could be one of those big fireworks that people are always talking about.
Cherry bomb.
No, one of the big
No.
ones, isn't it? They're called a U something, like a number, a U-32 or something like that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I don't know much about fireworks, but looks like a cartoon stick of dynamite. Okay, sticks it in his mouth and lights it. So it's like, well, is this that bad? Oh, and she names it. She calls it a happy birthday because she's lighting a candle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and you wonder. I wonder. But the reaction of the rest of the crew tells you, oh yeah, this is not cool at all. That probably is a stick of dynamite she shoved in his
It's
mouth.
and it's not the first time she's done this.
No, because they know it.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody is familiar with happy birthday, and either she named it or they named it, and they've seen it before. Yeah. Um.
It
So.
it is very reminiscent of something that the Joker would do. You know,
Mhm.
you mentioned the Joker earlier. It's just because not that she's acting particularly sane when we
But.
first meet her, but you get just with that scene, you get this feeling that she could flip out and kill
Mhm.
someone at the drop of a hat. She doesn't, she doesn't have to give it a lot of thought. And though that's what makes criminals like her and the Joker scary. Not that they are capable of doing such evil, but that they will do it
You
randomly
yeah, you don't
without
know
provocation.
how in the world you could be part of a crew of somebody like that. I'm just like,
You must need that money.
because at any time I could do the one thing, and
Yeah.
they're like waiting for me.
Yeah.
It's my turn. It's like, yeah, I just
Just
we work in stiffs, work under enough difficult circumstances
right.
as it is. Working under those kind of
Yeah.
circumstances, I don't
You
know.
have to worry about how you might walk into a room and if that's the reason that your life
Man,
is going to end.
dude, yeah. So it is a stick of dynamite or something large enough to make an explosion because Superman hears it as he's talking to Batman. Um, Tells Batman something happened, this way. Let's go check it out. So they hop out. Batman says it's the old Gotham Museum of Antiquities and it's derelict. Well, apparently not so much. Uh, we go back inside. We see Magpie having just a good old time because we don't see it, fortunately. We see Bull laying in the panel, the lower half of his body. The upper half of his body, or what may remain of the upper half, is off panel. But we do have these spots of smoldering smokiness around his
Yeah.
feet on the floor.
Ooh.
So you could bet that that's ignited hunks of something just because of the way it's drawn.
Ooh.
Um, One of the Gunsels says, "Hey, Batman's here," and some other dude that's flying. And before they can really wrap their head around that. Which I would have to say, at the time that Batman is active, there probably are other flying either good or bad guys. I would think so.
You think?
I don't know. Maybe it's still unusual to see somebody flying, but before they can, like I say, wrap their heads around that, Superman just busts right through the wall, surprising Magpie, and then Batman. He enters in the quiet Batman-y kind of way while everybody's focused on Superman. Um, Magpie's not willing to do anything. She directs her soldiers to do something to Batman. We get the shoot 'em up with the bullets bouncing off. Really nice panel too of the bullets ricocheting off Superman.
Yeah.
He's standing there. You can tell there is absolutely no change in his face, no emotion. It's like he is just standing there waiting for them to get this out of their system. It's
Yep.
like, oh yeah, he's got a gun. Okay, he's going to shoot. Here we go. Hang on. Okay, are you done? That it just that passe kind of thing. Superman walks up to him and crushes the gun. Then that's when we see Batman. He's grabbed the other bad guy, the other soldier that was trying to run away. And I say soldier; they're not dressed as soldiers, but in the organization, I just picture them as just being
Yeah.
grunts, and,
They're
and I don't mean that in a bad way, just
thugs
soldiers.
or
Yeah,
minions.
I hesitate to use the word thug because it's got kind of a different connotation nowadays than it used to.
Trying to think of that Kirby
And then
Crackle song.
I said the word gunsel, which is like a 20s and 30s term for them. So that's like kind of a little older school than I really wanted to go. But just the normal gun wielding, follow my orders kind of dudes. That's all they are. Um, so next, Batman focuses attention on Magpie, but she says, "No, you're not going to get me." She throws a vial of poison gas to not to mask her escape, but to separate the good guys on one side and she on the other side, because it's not a smoke cloud; it's actual poison gas.
Henchman.
Henchman. That's an excellent word for it. Yeah.
It's a Kirby Crackle song. I was trying to look up the name of the song.
So Superman decides that he's going to inhale this poison gas, and then we focus on him. It is, after all, his book. Maybe kind of lost that in the story, but it
Right.
is a Superman book. So he inhales the poison gas, flies off outside the atmosphere of the Earth, releases the gas, and tells us everything that's going on. Now, this I thought was a little, I don't know, interesting, because I haven't too often at all really been exposed to something that is a weakness of Superman, but is a very mundane thing that is a weakness of Superman. And I say that because he spits out this gas and then he says, "The stuff is no longer a dangerous solvent. Now, since that little stunt has also exhausted the air in my lungs, I better get back inside Earth's atmosphere." Da, 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 da. So, breathing at this point is a weakness of Superman's.
Yep.
He has to breathe. Maybe not as often as we do, or in as great a volume as we do, but he does have to breathe. Now, that's interesting because now, dude flies through space like it's nothing. So either he is holding his breath for hours, days at a time, or he doesn't have to breathe. He respires, his body takes in oxygen in some other method, which in the middle of space, I'm not sure what other method there could possibly be.
He does hold his breath when he goes into space. He can hold his breath for great swaths of time. I don't know how long that is. A
Okay.
good writer, uh, if Superman is in space for any length of time, will show him at some point with some kind of breathing apparatus, because
Mm-hmm.
he does eventually
He
have to
does have to
breathe.
breathe. He does. Okay. Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, that is interesting, and it makes complete sense that after expelling all that gas from his lungs, that his lungs would be empty at that point. So
right. Yeah. So he heads back down. He sees or Batman, and I apologize. I keep getting them
I do
reversed.
that all the time.
He sees Batman trying to get away, and he's like, oh, Superman thinks, oh wait, we're not done. All this other stuff has happened, but the two of us aren't done. And so he goes to whatever, stop, apprehend Batman, what, and he finds out that no, actually Batman wasn't trying to get away. He was accessing the super killer laboratory that he has in the trunk of the, is it a Batmobile?
He
Yeah, it
just
just looks like a car.
Yeah, it's a regular. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
what
he's
was
not.
what they were trying to do with Batman at this time, but even I think just before Crisis on Infinite Earths, because Jason Todd was introduced before Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I know that there's a story where he was introduced because he was stealing the
Stealing
tires
the
off the
tires of it.
Batmobile.
Yeah, I remember
But
that.
the Batmobile in that story was like, yeah, it was like this car. It was just a, but
Just a
I
big
don't,
sedan. So.
yeah, I don't know if that was a pre-crisis story or if they changed it post-crisis, but either way, at some point they decided to get rid of the big fancy Batmobile and just give him a regular car, which, think back to Detective Comics 27, he had just a regular car then,
Right.
but
Yeah.
still, you don't expect, it's like, what, why is he getting into that's two-door sedan?
Right. Yeah.
What's
Well, I
going
mean,
on there?
the Batmobile has become as much a weapon, if you will, as anything else Batman ever has. I mean, it
Yeah.
has to do all of these different things. It has to protect him. It has to have all this other gear in it. So I could quickly see where, yeah, driving a K car is not gonna it's not gonna do that. We gotta elevate this thing somehow. So,
Yeah, it's
but
the Batmobile is just as much a part of him as his
yeah,
costume and his utility belt. Take any of those three away, and it's like it's not really Batman.
he's just more a dude than
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
more like the dude that he is without the Batman stuff. Yeah.
yeah. You see him in that panel getting ready to get into this car, and he stopped being Batman, and he started being some crazy guy in a Batman suit.
He's gonna jump in the car and yeah.
Yeah. Might
But
as
yeah,
well be
he's
getting
got
into a
this.
station wagon, frankly.
Oh, that's funny. Only if it's a Woody with a couple surfboards on top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Um, big tricked out lab in the trunk, and it's because Batman grabbed a piece of the whatever shards of glass from Magpie's gas vial. So the vial, what she threw down to release the poison gas, after Superman got rid of the gas, Batman got a piece of that vial to run some tests on it. And he found a thread that was a 16th of an inch. Now, I don't know if that's long or if that's diameter, but that is very small
Yeah.
nonetheless, whichever way it goes. And he does some analysis on it, and he finds out that that is 5,000 years old. That piece of whatever it is comes from a thing, a piece of cloth, I guess, that is 5,000 years old. And now, which a couple things. Now he goes to get back in the car because he's going to go somewhere. Now we see the car, and the car isn't just a regular sedan. The car looks like some kind of 60s money Italian kind of sports car that they imported 5 of in the US, and that was it or something.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's not a
So
nice car, but it's not the Batmobile.
no, but it does look like something more. Just not that tricked out yet. But
Yeah.
yeah. Um, because he's going to take the car to go to some place that has cloth that is 5,000 years old that the fiber had to have come from because there's nothing else anywhere in Gotham remotely like that. There's only one place that a cloth 5,000 years old would be. And of course, it turns out to be another museum, not the derelict uh, Museum of Antiquities or whatever he called it over here. It is something, and he doesn't tell us, I don't think, over there. So apparently, Gotham must have moved the museum somewhere.
Yeah.
And this is the old one, and he's going to the new one.
That fiber is one of those CSI Miami level clues for him to find because it's never oh, I found a fiber on this piece of broken glass that came from that test tube. Let me test it. This fiber comes off of a sweater that could be bought in any Walmart all across the world. No,
Yeah, really.
this
The
not
color
only
is the most widely used
right,
color. Yeah.
right. Not only is it a thread, piece of fabric that's 5,000 years old, it can only be found in one place. And they used to do that crap all the time on CSI Miami. There's a piece of gravel on this perp's shoe that could only have come from one driveway
Right.
in the city.
This gravel is composed of this rock, and the only
Yeah,
place this rock is found is yeah.
right.
It's it's the tech equivalent of the smartest man in the room concept.
Yeah.
The Sherlock Holmesian. It's only instead of it being a person, they rely on tech to be the all knowing. It's like yeah. So
It's just
uh,
because there's come on, there's fibers all over that room, and the one that he manages to
right,
pick up is that's
and
I love that stuff.
you quote CSI Miami. I quote Bones as always doing that kind of stuff because they find the antenna of a moth that is only found at a certain plant that is only by the pond at and that's where the body is. Yeah, it's like okay, thank you.
CSI Miami, I specify that one out of all the other CSIs because I think they take it to another level because the guy in the show, Horatio, he would be the one, the whole team would be there. They'd be combing over the crime scene. And then he'd show up with his sunglasses and he'd pull his sunglasses. Oh, what do you guys got? And they're telling him, oh, we don't have much. We went over the body and we blah, blah, blah. And then he just kind of goes, he's not even looking at it. He'll be looking off in one direction and he'll point behind him. What's that on the bottom of his shoe? And they're like, whoa, we didn't even notice that. And that's the one clue that points him toward the murderer.
Yeah.
He notices it the moment he walks on the scene.
Yep. First thing he saw when he got out.
Yep.
Okay, so we cut now to Magpie, presumably where Superman and Batman are going, but we don't know that at this point. She is here. Looks like she's in a museum walking around. We have and I guess the way to tell is that we have sarcophagi with mummies in them because a museum is the only place that's going to be. So she must be in a museum somewhere.
She must be hugging up on them mummies, otherwise she wouldn't have got that fiber on her.
5,000. Yeah, what are you doing with the 5,000? Yeah,
because they're encased.
We
both of
don't,
the mummies we see are in glass cases.
We don't want to ask. We're not kink shaming on this show.
That's right.
If that's what Magpie's into, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, then more power to you, dog.
The killing people to steal trinkets. Don't do that.
But
rub up against a 5,000-year-old mummy. Have at it.
Hey, one of these may be her favorite place to sleep at night.
That's right.
Whatever. Yeah. That's hey. So she's soliloquying here about how things are not what she wants them to be, and the fist raised Batman and all this. But then she's thinking that she has one more shot to make the big haul. And the big haul involves some Fabergé eggs, which I would love to see in person, but I have never seen a real one.
No.
But while she is dreaming about this or whatever, Batman and Superman both show up. Batman comes in sneakily and talks to her and gets her attention. And then Batman grabs her by the top of the head. I can't believe that he knows this yet. So he's going to, I don't know, crush her skull or hold her, but I don't know what he's doing. But he grabs her by the top of the head and pulls off this mohawky fake wiggy thing that she's wearing. So it's fake. She's got red hair. She's a red-haired woman underneath. Regular hair. A little disheveled now because it's been under the shower cap with all this crap on it. But yeah.
Part wig, part bald cap.
Whatever that was. I mean, So, and now we see that her psychosis that we have been exposed to in the things that she has done, if that's not bad enough, okay, we now have to feel empathy for her because when Batman snatches this thing off her head, she just crumbles because this persona is now gone and she is left with her, not persona, but herself. And herself is something that she doesn't like or can't deal with or doesn't want to be, whatever. That's why the magpie and the bad guy and all this kind of stuff. Little bit different from, I think, a lot of other bad guys that you see nowadays. They are personality wise, yeah, I guess that's right. The same in and out of the makeup. They're just effed up from the feet up. They're just, whereas here, I think we see that maybe it's, if it's not a split multiple personality, maybe it's almost a related to almost like a more a bipolar, but
Yeah.
it's a psychological issue that she has. It's not that she is, and I realize, not that she's just not sociopathic, which of course is its own psychological issue, but she is escaping something, and she escaped into this magpie persona. It's been stripped away. It's just her. Um, where does Batman flip? No, it's got to be on this page. Batman says who she is. Yeah, it's right here. Where's her name?
Superman says it on the previous page when he's ripping off her wig.
Oh, he gives her name then. Oh yes, Margaret Pye, Pye, like magpie. Yeah,
Ah,
little connection there. This is Margaret Pye in the red hair. Magpie with the mohawk. Margaret Pye in the red hair, and she is a. She works at the museum. She's a curator of one of the nation's leading museums, which actually doesn't necessarily mean that it's this one. My
yeah,
assumption when I read was that this
yeah,
is where she works. That's why when everything was crumbling, she retreated to here. And that would be why she had a piece of this 5,000-year-old
yep,
cloth on her. Not because she's magpie, but because as Margaret Pye, she works with this stuff and just
yep.
gets it on her. So, um, pushed too far. You saw the psychological profile in her. Yeah, so she got picked on. We did see that as a child. Her retreating into herself caused her to take on this magpie persona. I don't know why, by extension, you then had to be a bad guy, but that's what she does. She becomes a villain. Um, so Superman and Batman tell that to us as the reader so that we understand what's going on. Everything then starts to kind of sum up here. The police come up, they get her. Uh, Superman and Batman have that conversation at the end. Well, this is how I do things, and I don't like it. Well, this isn't over yet. I'll have my eye on you. Well, you go ahead and watch, you peeping Tom sicko. And, this back and forth thing that we saw before this and after and the two heroes that don't see eye to eye having the setting the status quo between them conversation, and that's the last couple pages of the story. That's how we end the story.
Again, I can't. I don't think I can end this episode just without just speaking on Superman being such a hypocrite, because it's this scene here where he tells him, I mean, ultimately it's like the whole point of this story is to point out how different Batman and Superman are.
Right.
And it's not just that. It's like as soon as, Magpie breaks down in front of Superman, he just kind of goes, "Oh, I see. See, all my criminals in Metropolis, they're just motivated by money. They either want to take over the world or they want to become rich. And, those, you just go and you lock them up. That's pretty easy. But your criminals are crazy. They got psychological issues, and you have to do things a little differently because of that. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it." And then he actually tells him, that's why you act outside the law. I don't like vigilantes, Batman, even though I've been called one myself. There's a job that needs to be doing here in Gotham, and you seem well suited to the task of doing it. So let's just look back to the previous issue real quick, where Superman stopped the folks that were in the liquor store with the bomb.
Right.
We don't know if they were, I don't think they ever clarified if they were terrorists or they were just robbing the liquor store, but had a bomb just in case, but either way, was Superman not acting outside the law when he walked into that liquor store and took those bad guys out?
He walked right by the law.
Yeah.
we do know that out of nowhere. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, something's going on. Let me go see. Walk, cross the line.
Exactly. He didn't go up to them, talk to them.
No.
They didn't say, I think this is something we would like you to handle, Superman. Why don't you go ahead? No, he basically said, get the F out of my way. I'm going to take care of this. If that's not a vigilante working outside the law, I don't know what is.
Okay. Yeah. No argument.
The only thing that they have done in this entire issue to even really try to separate truly try to separate Batman's methods from Superman is in that opening scene after Bull runs away and Batman is his reaction is great because he's had the garbage thrown in his face. Bull starts to run away. Batman is wiping the garbage off his face and he just goes, remarkable. He's actually more afraid of her than he is of me.
Yep.
And then he basically says, that's not going to work in my town. Right, I have to create object lessons with people.
That's it.
And that's too bad for Bull because he's going to have to get used to walking on crutches for a while. And so he's already decided Bull's going to have at least one of his legs broken.
Right.
So Superman would never do that. He would never go into a confrontation knowing that he is going to physically break bones on somebody. He didn't do that in the liquor store. He took them out in, I guess, the most gentle way that Superman could take 3 regular people out. But still, we're talking semantics here when it comes to how they. Superman's a great big old hypocrite. I still love him, but that's the message that I get from this issue is not simply Batman and Superman are different. Batman has to act a certain way because of his criminal element, because his criminals are more thought out,
Yep.
But I get from this, Superman's a hypocrite and they had to get them together. You can't do this without introducing Batman and Superman at some point.
Yeah, but absolutely.
Also, I want to point out the scene where Superman comes through the wall and Magpie's there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cover. And while I have seen there's countless of examples of covers that do depict what happens in the comic, it's not, this is a direct copy from this panel to the cover or from the cover to the panel. I don't know which came first, but It's the exact same image. And I don't know that I've necessarily seen that before. To me, that speaks to he didn't have time to get the cover done. And so he grabbed this from
the story. Yeah.
Yeah. But I found that weird. I don't know if you've ever experienced.
If I have, it doesn't happen frequently.
Yeah.
No, that it is an exact panel from the story. No, even with, all of these earlier in the comic book history, when the artist for Inside was the same as the cover artist, I don't remember ever that often, if at all, the exact panel being used for both. No.
Yeah. Now I've always loved those covers back in the day that were, you'd see the hero, being killed or about to be killed by the bad guy, and then there'll be a little blurb at the bottom. That's right, folks. This actually happens in the issue. And
Mhm.
then you get there, and it's new art, it's different art,
Yeah.
and the cover does represent what's happening, but looking at a cover like that, okay, he's obviously not going to die, and I can't wait to get to that part to see how they get
What
out of
happens?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does actually happen? Yeah.
But I tell you that I've never run across any explanation to why it's literally the same exact panel. I found it kind of interesting because, um, yeah, again, I can only assume he ran. And this book was coming out twice a month, every 2 weeks.
Right.
And John Byrne is fast. He is. He can do, but I think this might be one of the reasons he can hit deadlines, because he's not afraid to just take a panel directly from the book and use it as part of the cover.
Um, for those of you that are Magpie fans like me now, apparently her next appearance, or a very soon appearance, is in Batman 401, which is part of the Legends crossover starting. It's interesting that while they are trying to establish this new Batman mythos, that they already have him, because or Superman. I believe Superman is involved in Legends too.
Yes.
Legends also. That there would be a crossover already when they haven't necessarily established the newness of this character. So,
Well, and what's crazy about it, I think we talked about this in the last episode too, or at least alluded to it. That issue of Batman came out the same day as this issue of Man of Steel.
okay.
Chronologically, if you read both issues, the events in this Superman issue take place chronologically before the events in that Batman issue.
Okay.
However, Batman 401 is listed everywhere as Batman's first post-crisis appearance.
Oh, and not this issue. Is this issue of Man of Steel listed in that list of post-crisis Batman appearances? Or, I
I
mean, would this
I
then
think
be
so,
the
yeah.
second appearance?
Yeah, they consider this his second appearance.
I guess because dude is going to appear first in his own book, and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
That's the only thing I can, because again, if Batman 401, despite when the story takes place, if it had come out the week before, all right, that was Batman's first appearance. But if it came out the
Okay.
same day, so yeah, I can only chalk it up to they're not going to give his first appearance in a Superman book.
Or B comes before S, and so B would be the first appearance, and S, or no, M, M would be the second appearance. If you have to separate them, Alpha is as good a separator as anything
That's
else,
true.
I guess.
That's true.
Maybe that's how they do it.
That's a good point. Very true. All right. I think in general, this was a fun story. It's so far, if we're looking at the Man of Steel series as a whole, with just these first 3 issues, the second issue might be my favorite so far of the
Yeah,
3.
I think I like 2 the best of the 3 so far.
But this was, like I said, you have to have an issue where you get Superman and Batman to meet. I find it interesting that if you think about just a few years back when they did Batman versus Man of Steel, or Man of Steel versus Batman, whatever that movie was called, with Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck. This is ultimately what, in general, Superman went to Gotham to arrest Batman in the movie, because based on what he'd been reading and seeing in the news, Batman was a bad guy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I find it interesting that they took that concept from this issue to use in that movie. Nothing else was the same at all.
No.
But how do you know that name? Martha. But yeah,
Yeah, it can't be his mom's name too. No way.
hell no.
Okay.
That Martha is such an uncommon name.
Yeah, there's only
Hey, nowadays, I don't think anybody's naming their kids Martha nowadays, but I
Unless you
think
can put two parentheses and a couple more vowels in it, or two apostrophes and a couple more
I think I
vowels.
pissed off every Martha in the world just now by saying that. Sorry, Martha.
Oh, sorry, nobody likes your name. Ah! Yeah,
Oh, snap.
it's not personal. It's just fact.
It's
Truth
not
is
personal.
truth.
Yeah.
There's no, there's no good or bad. Truth is truth. There's nothing behind it. Truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me look at this last page again.
Watch out, the Snyder boys are going to be after you. Yeah, yeah. Snyder can take his movie and go watch it.
I don't, yeah, that could be another 2-hour episode. Blech. Let's see. Oh,
Oh,
the final panel in this story after Superman flies away and Batman is thinking to himself, a remarkable man, all things considered. Who knows? In a different reality, I might have called him friend. And that was, he might as well be looking at us winking as he
right.
says that.
Yeah, in a different reality.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of fun. But
Good image of Batman from the side here, though. I like that. His head is turned just enough so you can see both ears.
yep.
Nice, strong chin. The whited out eye because of the cowl, and yeah, I like that image of Batman.
Yeah. I've always liked John Byrne's Batman, especially panels in which he really just layers in the black so that he's just in the shadows. I like that. It's funny though when you look at Batman at this time, and my first thought is, well, he's still blue and gray, and his cape is of normal proportions.
Yes.
How quaint,
Yeah.
his his cape is not some unwieldy giant monstrosity that flows throughout every page of the
Right.
that's so quaint.
Um,
That's yeah.
it's interesting you should say that. I have been recently making my way through the first volume of Swamp Thing,
Oh,
and I was particularly excited to see Bernie Wrightson draw Batman, and there was nothing about it that jumped out at me, and I was kind of
yeah.
disappointed. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I guess because it was a Swamp Thing book, that's where he put most of the attention, or single panels or stuff like that. I kept
Well,
hoping, come on, do a good Batman, and Batman was serviceable. He was in it all over the place, but it just wasn't as captivating as his Swamp Thing was, and I
is
came
this
away kind of disappointed about that.
are we like we're still in the 80s Bronze Age type of
Yeah, the first volume of Swamp Thing might have been late '70s.
that there was an era there, and that falls smack dab in the middle of it, where artists were required to follow a certain style guide when it came to these big characters. Because I remember watching a whole thing about when Jack Kirby left Marvel to go to DC, 1972. That was a good year. Somebody was born.
'72, okay, early '70s, not late '70s.
Somebody was born in 1972.
Yeah, I figure, of course, Billy's going to know about Swamp Thing. That's
Yeah.
right in his bailiwick there.
For those listening, one of our live stream viewers, Billy D, pointed out that Swamp Thing was 1972. Speaking of Billy D, real quick, guys, I just want you to both to know this is more for the live stream audience than it is for whoever ends up listening to this when it comes out. But just yesterday I listened to I think it was the most recent Magazines and Monsters that you two were on, talking about A Brave and the Bold with some Native Americans, very racist
Hmm. Oh
stuff going
yes,
on in that
yeah, boy.
book. Billy D says, well, Ween and Wrightson are great on that title. Still talking about Swamp Thing. The more stuff is better, though. Just my 2 cents.
Well, to be honest, that's why I'm reading Swamp Thing, as I'm working my way up to issue 20 of the second volume, which 2021 is where Alan Moore takes over, because a show that I listen to, podcast, has recently started talking about the Moore books, and I want to catch up and then read along with them. So
Yeah.
I read the first whatever, what was it, House of Mystery or whatever appearance of Swamp Thing. I'm going to read the first volume, and then I'll read up to wherever, and then read along with the podcast as they drop episodes, one show per book, talking about the Alan Moore run.
Nice. I've never read any Swamp Thing, but I did see the movie many, many times.
I thought the television series was better than the movie.
I don't know that I ever saw a television series. I watched that. He used to play the movie on frickin' like TNT or TBS all the time.
With Adrienne Barbeau.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Billy, you're right. Haney just he I don't know if he didn't have respect or I don't know, but the Native American representation in the book in the story was just it was bad.
Yeah,
It
that
was
kind of
bad
stuff.
then. It's bad now.
That kind of stuff stuck around for a long time, though. As far
Yeah,
as just
absolutely.
being tone deaf, as Billy says, is a
That
good
that's
description.
absolutely what it is. Yeah, you know it. If you didn't know anything about Haney, you would have to say that he probably lived his whole life as an extremely Caucasian gentleman because
Yep.
his Native American subtleties were not existent.
Yeah.
It just yeah. So, anyways, that's Bob Haney. This is John Byrne.
That's right.
So, what
Oh,
did you have a favorite scene or moment, page, panel, anything like that?
I really dug Superman sucking up all the gas and then flying it out into space
Okay.
and turning it into some sort of digital creation.
Yeah, the little
yeah, because they look like pixels.
The stippling. He sat there and he stippled with that ink pen. Yeah, yep.
But that's the fact that she throws the gas down and he realizes just he's got to get these people out of here or they're all going to die, but he can't grab Batman or somebody else is going to die.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because he could easily just quickly, within half a second, each person one at a time, grab him up and get him out of that room before anybody got any gas in their lungs. But he knows he can't do that with Batman. So he just goes, his next option is just literally suck all the poison into his freaking lungs, fly out into space, and just exhale it all out into the vacuum of space. I do enjoy, though, that they kind of have to make sure that they put in there that not only did he freeze the gas, but he can see using his microscopic vision that now the chemical aspect of the gas has changed, so it's harmless to everybody.
It changed the chemical composition. So it's not like, well, now there's a poison gas cloud floating around the earth somewhere. It's like, no, he changed it. It's okay.
Something that could end up being mixed in with some precipitation over some sad city that.
Well, this is what Prince sang about, because when it finally comes back into the atmosphere, it becomes purple rain. So
that's.
Thank you.
I don't
I'll
know.
Be here all week.
I don't know whether to groan or applaud.
Yes,
either one.
I like the image of Magpie where the bad guy has brought the bad news and she is exclaiming, "Fool!" I like that image. You see that she's got a big gap in her upper palate there in her front teeth, and you see those fashionista glasses and those earrings of whatever sort. He may even have, in the one earring there, he may even have drawn letters, maybe.
Yeah, I can't tell. It almost
I can't
like
quite
Bob.
tell. I don't know if I don't know if that's an Easter egg of some sort of what, but I just like that image of Mag. I don't know what it is about Magpie, but I just find her fetching as a criminal. So I'll probably, when I get done later on today, see if I have that Batman Legends book and read it, just to read another appearance of hers.
Yeah. I know that I read it back in the day, but I haven't read it recently, so I don't know. And if Magpie does appear again within the DC universe after that Batman issue, it's not for a long time.
Well, let's do a quick googly here. Not to be confused with the googly moogly.
Great googly mooglies.
This is a googly. Oh, wow. This image she changes quite a bit. and she has 28 appearances as of whenever the DC Fandom Wiki was last updated
Oh,
on her. So
okay.
they don't list them, which I will never for the life of me understand this. They don't list them chronologically. They list them alphabetically by comic book. And it's like, how more useless could that
Right.
listing be than,
Right.
yeah. So I don't know. Actually, let's see. Man of Steel is not even listed.
Oh, that makes sense.
So, if anybody with the DC Fandom Wiki is listening, your effort sucks on this particular. It's terrible because we just she was in there 8, 10 times. I mean, it's obvious she's in there, but you don't have her listed.
We're just
That
pissing off everybody in this episode, man. Trump
oh,
supporters, people named Martha, and anybody associated with DCFandom.com.
okay. Now I will say it doesn't look like Batman 401 is listed either. So there must be a break in this coverage with one of the resets. If it starts at New 52 and moves down or something like that, because these older books are not listed, at least for Magpie. And this Magpie is listed as Margaret Pye. So it's the same character,
Yeah, who
but
knows?
none of her older. So this is a new blood making this listing, and I say that because no comic books existed prior to 1990, or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, yeah.
Billy
um
Billy points out that Complete Marvel reading order is better for that info. DC as well. Is that a website? Complete
the
DC order.
Marvel reading order is, I try to use the DC part of that site, and I don't find it to be all that easily done. Maybe I'm not
Well, and
doing something right.
the funny thing about sites like that is when it comes to reading order, depends on how you define it, and it depends on how the person who put the list together defines it.
Well, yeah,
Because,
definitely.
I found, like, for example, I was looking for the reading order to, oh, I don't remember. It was either the Clone Saga or what was the big X-Men one in the 90s that took them into a different reality?
I don't know, the one with Cable and X Factor, and I mean they're Executioner song, or so I don't know. To me
Nah,
they're all alike.
Joe Mad was a big part of it.
Yeah, he was doing what, X Factor at the time.
Yeah, but I was looking up, it might have been the reading order for that. And while most of it was in order, uh, in regard to how the issues were released, they had taken issues that have come out like after the event
Yes,
that
that
reveal stuff that maybe have happened before. And so
right.
they stick that ahead, in the list ahead of the other stuff. And yeah,
Which,
chronologically, story wise, I get it.
yes,
But
it's so what you found was a chronological reading order, not a release
right.
date reading order.
And
Which
that's,
which again, I have learned to have to specify the two
yeah.
also. And while we're here, really quickly, I'm going to say this and get it off my chest. Let me step up on my pulpit. All of you people out there currently on the internet doing reading orders, please don't do collected edition reading orders. I don't give a shit about
Right.
collected editions. I want reading orders by issue, which seems to
Yes.
be something nobody does anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, people, a reading order is by issue because that's how the stories came out, not by trade, omni. What? No, that whole practice, and I know somebody listening prefers maybe doing this as well. I don't. I want individual comic book, whatever, to
You're,
collect, to read, to what. I'm going to piss all kinds of people off. I
you're just going to
understand.
have to start your own site.
They're cheaper, and I get all the reason, but I want the originals. I want the originals with ads and letter pages and covers and all of it. And I am willing to pay up to get the ones I want if that's what I have to do. But regardless, a reading order is by book, not by trade. Not, I hate having to go through 80 sites of trade paperback reading orders if that's what you're going to do, list that in your search. What is it? SEO. That it's compendium, trade, or whatever. Don't just say reading order, because when you list a bunch of trade paperbacks, I don't have those. It doesn't work for me. I have issues, and I have issues. That's what I need to read from, are the issues that they are in.
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Billy D asks, did you guys buy
No.
any of those new DC trades that mirror Marvel epics? I have not. I almost bought the Superman one until I realized that it was just full of all the Golden Age Superman stories I've already read.
Right.
I was gonna start picking them up, but they don't sell them digitally, which
Yeah,
I don't get. But
yeah, I'm not a convert of having collected editions and putting them on my shelves and stuff like
yeah,
that. That doesn't matter to me. So if I want to read them, I look to buy them. Which actually, in individual issues, if you look long enough, you can almost always buy them cheaper than you can in a trade paperback, anyways.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, I realize a lot of stuff I think that like Billy focuses on is much, much older stuff by some killer talent. And so to get those issues that are 50 years out of print, you definitely have to trade up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Grab those trades, because it's about the only way a realistic person is going to be able to buy them. I get that. Yeah, that's
I like the epic collections at Marvel. I like
sci-fi and apes. Yeah.
I like the idea behind, how they're supposed to be collecting certain storylines and whatnot. So they may not have every issue.
Mhm.
I don't know. I like the epic collections. And there was a time when, every time a new podcast idea pops into my head, which is about every 4 minutes, one of them was to do, and I know there's a podcast out there that specifically talks about Marvel Epic collections.
Well, there was. He hasn't done a podcast in a while. I think
Okay.
he might have gone video.
But he would do like an episode dedicated to the full collection.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
my idea was to start with one collection and do an episode for each issue, and then that would be one season.
Yeah, and he would talk about them as they came out also, which for
Yeah.
those epic collections were like they could be anywhere in the run of any particular book. There was
Exactly.
no
That's what
yeah,
annoys me
so
about the epic collections is,
sure. That's yeah.
it's like you finish one and you're like, all right, I'm ready to move on. Oh, well, they just released one that has all the issues from 60 years before this one.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then they have one that has all the issues that's 10 years after this one, but nothing in between.
the whole series will be in 20 epics, but they release them 8, 16, 24, 1, 5, 19. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah, he is Canadian. And like I say, he stopped podcasting, but I believe he's been doing video or trimmed down videos of
Yeah.
it. I don't think he does the full kind of show like he used to with the podcast. Curtis, that's his name. So
Billy, for those of you listening, had let us know that the guy who does that podcast, his name is Curtis,
his name is
and that
with a
he's
K. Yeah.
Curtis with a K, that he's a nice guy and that he's Canadian. I'm not sure, Billy, why you have to specify that he's Canadian. I don't know what
Because
you're trying to
Canadians are
do
nice
there.
guys. If he's American, he couldn't be a nice guy.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, it's known that Canadians are nice.
Jim Carrey says the reason why Canadians are nice is because of the universal health care. Because when they get injured or sick, they get fixed up. And so
I can't argue that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Jim Carrey Canadian?
Yeah.
Well, then I would have to take his word for it because he knows. So
Bill Shatner.
is Bill Shatner Canadian?
I guess Billy just posted, I love
Oh.
Will Shatner. I don't know what that has to do with our conversation unless he's Canadian.
Maybe he is somewhere in the back of my head.
I think he is. Yeah.
That he's Canadian. Okay. All right. So let's finish this thing up before we go down any more rabbit holes.
Anything else you want to say about this issue?
No, I don't think so.
All right, folks. Come back next time in our next episode. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Lois and Clark find themselves aboard Lex Luthor's luxurious yacht But the evening takes a dark turn when Luther's true intentions come to light. Things go from bad to worse when a group of terrorists seize the ship, only to find themselves up against both Lois Lane's quick thinking and Superman's raw power. But are the terrorists the true threat? Or is it Luther himself? Bum, bum, bum. Don't worry, folks. Ed and I are going to get all up into that in our next episode as we discuss the Man of Steel #4, Enemy Mine. Any last thoughts, Ed? Anything?
If they're on a yacht, is mine like the incendiary device that floats in the water, or is that a double entendre for mine? Or?
I don't recall any sea mines appearing
Oh,
in the issue.
Okay. Then other than that, no, I don't. And yes, Billy says that Bill Shatner is a Canadian. So was Alex Trebek. Since we're talking about Canadians,
A lot of our biggest names in Hollywood are Canadian or British.
Bare Naked Ladies, I think was
they were Canadian. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Until next time, I'm Steven. That's Ed. And this was the Superman Super Show, post-crisis edition.
Ciao.
Bye. I may include that cough at the end, just because.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let me stop and save my recording.
Are you sitting in a cafe?
Yeah, something like that. I was sitting at the counter and someone bought a milkshake.
Well, that's because her milkshakes bring all the kids to the yard.
This is true. We just merged those two songs.
Wow. Yeah, that was horrible, but two completely different generations. But there you go.
That's funny.
Oh, man.
Okay, here we go. Numero 30. All right. Let me look at my calendar. So March 1st would be 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
Do we want to...
Something is going on in March. When do we talk, Billy? The 2nd. Okay.
Are you cheating on me with other podcasts?
Absolutely.
All right, cool.
And I have another one that I'm scheduled to record with. Actually, other than you, Billy is the only other person I really record with. But I'm about to start another with a brand new individual that I'm not going to say because they haven't released any episodes of the show yet. So
interesting.
They're banking right now.
Oh.
Yeah, as far as I know, March 1st should be okay.
Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and read. Let's do obviously Man of Steel #4. But I don't have the schedule in front of me, but should we go ahead and just read the next Golden Age Superman? And then if after we're done talking about Man of Steel #4, if we feel like we have time to go through a Golden Age story, we can do that. Just be prepared like a Boy Scout.
Sure. Your thing here says your notes say Superman 10 story #2.
No, I think those are old notes.
Yeah, I was going to say I think we're past that. I think we're in it. I think it's story 4.
I think so.
It might be Superman 10 still, but I think it's like story 4.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's Superman 10, but story 4.
Because I noticed that on the calendar you released through Patreon the other day that you had all your shit laid out there, and I'm like, dog, you are doing too much. But okay.
Really? Because I feel like I'm not doing enough. Shit, I got a bunch of stuff out there that's like started. Yeah.
In doing too much, I don't. In my thoughts, it's not too much. It's attention is split too much.
Yeah, I know.
Bring it together, do this one and finish that, and do this one and finish. But that's just me. I mean, I understand how you get into, oh yeah, but I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do, but if you're, yeah, I find for me, if I'm trying to juggle all of that, actually doing somehow gets left behind, and then I'm like, oh, fuck all this. I just,
Well, and the thing is that most of the time I can, it's like, all right, let me work on this podcast. Let me, I get 2 or 3 or 4 episodes. I'm kind of motoring along. I'm getting episodes. I'm banking them. I'm focusing on the one thing. And then it usually takes about 3 or 4 before I'm like, all right, I kind of want to do something else now. And I think that's why I'm trying to convert a lot of my stuff to, I'm not going to release any episodes until I have the full season done. And then I'll start releasing.
right, yeah.
Because otherwise
Right.
it's going to be like, here's an episode and who knows when the next one's going to come out. It might be next week. It might be next month. It might be 2 months from now. But, if I don't know, try not to think about it too much anymore. I have my, here's what I want to work on each day of the week. And so if it's Monday and Monday is whatever podcast, that's what I'll work on, unless I am still in the mood to work on what I was working on the previous day. And then I'll just, trying to structure it and then yet not plan as much, because the planning is what is usually the death nail. So
Right.
just trying to go with the flow. Billy D left.
Had shit to do, yeah.
All right, dude. So let's plan for now. Let's plan on March 1st. Man of Steel #4, and then whatever. I'll look it up later. Like you said, it's Superman #10. It's just one of the stories in there.
Yeah, I think it's the last story in whatever Superman issue, if it's 10. And just pencil in what, 11:30
Yeah. And then
till we know otherwise.
Yeah, and then if I find she's not working, we'll do it early if we're both available. So, because I kind of like, it's nice knowing that we're going to get done before noon. I mean, not noon your time, but noon my time.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and stop the live stream because I always forget to do that. So anybody still watching live, if you're watching the video in the future, bye.